Riku and his friends participate in a GBN challenge that's so difficult and intense, even Kyoya Kujo and his entire Avalon team could not defeat it. This seems like the perfect excuse to finally see the Gundam 00 Sky in action. The Gundam 00 Sky takes flight in this action-packed and super fun episode of Gundam Build Divers, which is definitely not reinventing the wheel and isn't winning me over in terms of making me love it even more than the previous seasons of Gundam Build Fighters, but this episode right here was still a lot of fun, if only for the fact that we finally got to see the Gundam 00 Sky in action. That, and we also got to see them participate in a really awesome battle against these group of lizard men. Yes, you heard me right, lizard men in space who are participating in this challenge known as the Lotus Challenge. It's this big event that a lot of Gunpla forces can participate in, where they have to take down this entire force of Gunpla fighters and destroy their entire base, which is based on the La Vie en Rose from Gundam Double Zeta. And what I especially love is how everything is nautical themed. Everything is based around a sea creature of some kind. Not just the mobile suits themselves, but the actual La Vie en Rose itself, which is now known as the La Vie en Crab. And that's because it's essentially a giant, monstrous hermit crab in space. I love how absurd it is, and I especially love that we got to see the return of some of the most obscure Gundams from G Gundam, which is, I definitely think, the closest thing to the Build Fighter series in terms of overall ridiculousness. We got to see the return of the Mermaid Gundam. We even got to see the Lobster and Crab Gundam show up. It was just ridiculous in the best ways possible. However, this is another one of those episodes where you're just going to have to suspend your sense of disbelief for just a second, because the way that they build up this whole Lotus Challenge is like the end-all, be-all, ultimate challenge of the entire GBN world, and no one can defeat it. Even the champion and his team, not even frickin' Rommel and his team can stand a chance against this challenge. Now, if this actually existed in real life and Gunpla was actually a real thing, I have no doubt in my mind that someone would probably be able to beat this thing in about 10 minutes. But a lot of the challenge comes not from the fact that it's just a big epic space battle, but from the fact that they actually have to launch from the virtual Earth of GBN into space, virtual space, to arrive at this massive crab base. And the thing is, when they do that, it actually wastes about 10 minutes. Oh, didn't I mention that there's actually a time limit to this challenge? 15 minutes. That's how they have to pull it off here. So most of their time is going to be wasted using this virtual shuttle, going up into space, and then having only just a little bit of time to take down this massive dreadnought of a battle station. But this is where Riku and his friends come up with a really great plan. They're actually only going to utilize 3 of their most powerful Gunpla in the battle, and they're actually going to build a real physical shuttle, which will allow them to move much faster than the one that's actually provided for them in the virtual world. Apparently this is something you can do. They're able to exploit the rules. No one else thought of this, and because of that, they're able to get in there and have a knockdown, drag out, awesome battle. And what I especially love is that not only did we get to see the Gundam 00 Sky in action, but we also got to see Ayame's brand new Gunpla, which is essentially just a variation on the Zero Maru that she had before. It has a brand new color scheme. It can still transform into a regular-sized Gundam, but I especially love the fact that the golden part of its face actually now moves down to the chest, revealing a more traditional-looking Gundam face on her Gunpla. Basically, it's just symbolism to show that she's past the dark part of her very tumultuous past. And we get to see a lot of her brand new abilities in action, and she actually incorporates more of her signature ninjutsu in battle, which I really love because, one, it's very unorthodox. That, and of course, it just amplifies the craziness of what is already a pretty nutty series to begin with. And then even Yuki, of all people, ends up getting a really nice upgrade for his Gym 3 Beam Master. I especially love how great it is at actually supporting the team with beams constantly just erupting from its body. But it's the Gundam 00 Sky that ends up just completely stealing the show. And that's, of course, because it's the main Gundam of the series, and it's the first time that we actually get to see it in action. And while I'm still not too keen on the overall design, if only for the fact that it's just so samey to a lot of the other Gundams that we've seen from the series and the franchise itself, It was a really great display in this episode. I especially love that it actually combines the Gundam 00 and the Destiny Gundam's abilities with the Transam and the Wings of Light. It's able to use the Transam Infinity ability, which basically just makes it really super fast and sprouting wings from its actual shoulders. But it has one other ability that I think is actually really fantastic that I'm going to talk about a little bit more in the rundown of this episode of Gundam Build Divers. So, really simple episode, impossible challenge, no one can defeat it. Riku and his friends come in and prove that even though they're rookies, they can just destroy everything with a really good strategy. That, and I just love how the Gundam 00 Sky actually incorporated real-life training elements into its fighting abilities. What I mean by this is that about halfway through the episode, there's a big montage sequence of all of the characters upgrading their Gunpla, training outside, and Riku and Momo are out playing soccer, and I'm like, how is this going to help them at all? Like, when is this going to take place in a Gunpla battle? Are we going to see a soccer match or something? And towards the end of this episode, when it seems like they're about to seemingly be defeated and pushed back by this massive force, they actually manage to attack using their soccer abilities. And the Gundam 00 Sky has these like weird shields on its leg, which go all the way down to its feet. They can sort of go up and down, and it's actually able to use those shields to deflect enemy attacks back. So the Gundam 00 Sky, with Riku piloting it, quite literally kicks a beam like a soccer ball right through this massive space station, and you know what? It's friggin' awesome. That was a really great scene and probably one of my favorite moments from Gundam Build Divers thus far. This is, of course, followed by seeing its Transam Infinity moment for the very first time, where this giant core is about to fall to Earth and it looks like they're going to lose, but they make it just in the nick of time. It's a really fantastic moment, but rest of the episode is basically just what you would expect. The Patrick Kolasar cameo and lots of ridiculous funny moments from the characters. Also, is it just me, or did Ayame do more than just upgrading her Gunpla this time? Did Team Ninja animate this episode? I don't know. I also love that this episode has a lot of little subtle moments that I think are very funny. Like when everybody's actually watching the battle that Riku and his team are actually having against the Lotus Challenge, you get to see that Rommel is actually just casually hanging out on Amelia's lap, and she seems completely okay with this because he's basically just a big stuffed animal. That being said, I'd be lying if I said I'm enjoying this more than the first two seasons of Gundam Build Fighters. I still think there's something missing from the series to add a little bit more to the drama, to the stakes of things, because even if they failed this challenge, there really are no repercussions. They could just try it again. There really is not that much at stake here, and really that's been sort of my biggest problem with the entire series. That and just watching the characters take this all so seriously when there's really nothing to fear at all is really funny, but if you're willing to accept that, you can still get a lot of enjoyment out of Gundam Build Divers. I've reached the point where I realize it's just never going to be as good as the first season was ever again, both in terms of character, story, and even just the animation quality itself. But for what it is still just a great thing for hardcore Gundam fans. Like I said, I didn't expect the Mermaid Gundam was going to return in this episode, and Riku battling against this guy, stealing his trident away from him, was oh so satisfying. I especially love all the new weapons he has, such as the giant ship-destroying beam sabers, all of the cannons that he has placed all over his body. It looks like there's going to be a lot hidden within the actual body of the Gundam 00 Sky, and I have a feeling that he probably has a few more tricks up his sleeve. And I can't wait to see how all of that's going to play out. That being said, I'm still interested to see where more of this second season is going to be headed, what the actual story is going to be. As it was, this episode right here was basically just a showcase of seeing the 00 Sky in action, and in that sense, it was still really cool. The next episode is when things are going to get really interesting, as we're going to be introduced to a brand new Gundam Force, which has a member which used to be a part of Ayame's old team, so I can't wait to see how she's going to interact with them, and see if this team is going to end up being like a really intense rival, and maybe even will rival them in their abilities. But again, like I said, you gotta suspend your sense of disbelief with this episode right here. The fact that these rookie kids came in here and destroyed this impossible challenge that even the greatest players in the GBN couldn't even tackle, it's a little ridiculous. But it's Gundam Build Divers. It's a ridiculous series, so I think it can get away with it. So remember, this isn't Shakespeare. It's Gundam Build Divers, which is why I'm going to give this episode a 4 out of 5. I still got a lot of enjoyment out of this one, and as a hardcore Gundam fan, I'm still loving seeing all of these different mecha and getting a lot of callbacks to a lot of classics from the series. If anything, you gotta see this episode to see the Lavian crab. This thing is just ridiculous. The only way it would be better is if it was voiced by Clancy Brown. So that's my thoughts on this episode right here. I'd love to get yours, however. Tell me what you thought about this episode of Gundam Build Divers in the comments section below, and what you guys hope to see from the rest of the Gundam Build Divers anime series. Let's start a discussion, guys. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, stay down, baby.